Just work on trying to break traction, get the car sideways. Even if it's just a little small, kick out. Just start there and then you can work your way up. How did I get into drifting? Yeah, well, my story is a little random. I owe it to my mother, actually, believe it or not. I guess I remember a time when I didn't even know what drifting was, let alone didn't even really know much about cars in the first place. A few people that I worked with were talking about cars all the time. They would talk about exhaust and suspension setup and fitting it and things like that. But I stayed far out of those conversations. I mean, for one, I didn't even have anything to contribute, let alone know what they were talking about. It wasn't until one day I was taking my mother out running errands with her because she didn't drive, so I was always her chauffeur. And we were going from one place to another. And on the highway, as we passed this field, off into the right-hand side, you could hear the tire screeching. It was loud, and all the exhaust revving. And you could hear it long before you even got to the spot where the trees would open up and you'd actually see the field itself. Turns out they were holding a little drift tournament, It was like nothing too big, nothing major, but it was something small for the locals. And for me personally, I didn't really care too much, but it was my mother actually who told me to get off on the exit. She wanted to go check out what was going on. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what business do you have as an old lady wanting to go down there and hang out with these young kids who are more than half your age? And you have no idea what's going on. You don't even know what this sport's about, but you want to go down there and check it out anyway. And I loved that about her so much. And I got to be honest with you, the event was awesome. I mean, for a non-car guy or drift enthusiast, didn't matter who you were. The vibes, the energy, the enthusiasm coming from all the people there, it was just a really all-around great event. Now, I felt a little out of place because when I pulled up in my little Nissan Sentra that I was driving at the time, I parked right between, it was a 240 SX and, oh man, it was a slammed IS 300. And I was looking way out of place, okay? But it didn't even matter because before I could even turn the car off, my mother had gotten out of the car and was already engulfed in a conversation with the group of people that were standing near the entrance. And it was so amazing to hear these people first embrace her as if they were talking to one of their buddies. Because, mind you, she's an older lady, okay? Probably the oldest at this event. And she had them talking about tire setup, suspension, camber, fitment, and she understood none of it. But she kept asking more and more questions and kept going because she deeply appreciated their passion and their enthusiasm for what they were talking about. And that made her more and more interested about what was really going on at this event. And I thought that was really cool. I was still on the sidelines, just kind of sitting back, but it was so fun to just watch her and find interest in something that was totally out of her element. And so we ended up getting into a conversation with a guy there named Dion. Now, Dion is the one who really kind of took me under his wing and taught me what I know today. It all started from him just asking a question, and I thought he was playing around or whatnot, but he was serious. He started asking me, hey, you ever tried drifting before? And I'm like, oh, no, dude, I can't even drive my car in a straight line, let alone do what these cars are doing. And, before I could really finish my sentence, he was like, oh, look, come on out this weekend. I'll go to the practice track and we can just play around a little bit. And I'm like, what the heck? And even before I could even disagree or reject his request, my mother was already raising her hand saying, absolutely, I would love to come out next weekend. And I'm just like, oh my God, what is she getting me into, She's got me in some kind of practice session for drifting. What is happening right now, But anyway, whatever. We ended up going out next weekend and we met up with Dion as promised. And dude, he took my mother out for the first run. And seeing him make that car dance from side to side all around that track, when he came back to the pits, I could see on her face that she had never felt such a rush in her life. She had this biggest smile as if she had just lived for the first time. And that was when I said to myself, I think I want to pay a little bit more attention to this sport. I just wanted to be able to make my car do just half of the things that he was making his car do. And that was when it really kicked in for me. I said, yeah, I'm going to do this. from that point on, I was going out there at weekend after weekend. I was meeting up with Dion, and as long as he was available, I was making myself available, and I was learning some tips and tricks. And before I knew it, I sold my Nissan Sentra. I bought me a used 350Z, and I just kept going out there, practiced over and over. And for me, I just kept failing over and over, and then more failing. But that's going to happen when you first learn to drift. That's going to happen when you first learn to do anything. But when you're first learning, you're bound to make mistakes. It's going to become a little overwhelming. You're going to spin out. You're going to hit something. You're going to do a bunch of things that's going to make you feel a little overwhelmed. But little did I know, Dion was actually preparing me to enter a little drift tournament that was coming up in the next few months. And he was egging me on. It's like, yeah, man, just, enter, sign up, and just do it. You'll do great. You'll do great. And I'm like, oh, God, here we go. I was always afraid. I was always in my own way, basically. Afraid to take chances and take leaps. And it was at that moment where I realized I just need to do it. I just need to just do something. This is how I got into the sport already. Let me just jump into something else that's going to make me feel a little uncomfortable, and we'll see what happens. So I entered, and oh boy, it was nerve-wracking, I'm not gonna lie, but somehow muscle memory kicked in, man, and I nailed my first run. And the adrenaline that I felt, oh my gosh, I was pumped. I wanted more, and that's when I knew I was hooked. So when it was all over, now mind you, I didn't win, but I didn't care either. Just the fact that I was keeping up with the rest of the guys and, doing not great, but just as good as the rest of the guys out there, it was a feeling that I had never felt before, and I knew I was not going to be able to feel it anywhere else. I had finally understood why my mother's smile was so big, because the adrenaline, the experience, it's such a rush. And to think, just on a year and a half prior to that, I couldn't even tell you what drifting was. I didn't know no fit me in a camber or nothing. I didn't know none of that stuff. So not too long after that, I quit my job, and well, cars became my life. The automotive world was my passion. And I told my mother that I was going to bring home a trophy for her. And unfortunately, she will not be around to see that trophy. But it doesn't matter. I'm going to keep my promise. I'm going to bring home that trophy for her. And when I do, so I go round the mantle right next to her picture. I love you, Ma. I appreciate everything you did for me.